Welcome back to the Extra Rep Podcast, guys. I'm Josh.
I'm Liam.
So today, the episode you guys have all been waiting for. I've went and done my blood tests, and obviously we've had a bit of a chat about it, but Liam's going to go through the blood tests that he's got, obviously from myself. I've got nothing to hide. I don't do any steroids, so we're all good. But we're going to go through that, and we're going to really make sure that you guys get a bit of an insight into, what my bloods are like, just as a personal trainer or someone who's trying to optimize his health. And then Liam's going to explain, what the markers we're looking for are, and obviously why they're important, and then at the end we'll sort of go through obviously what we're looking to improve, and in terms of supplementation and things like that, as well as obviously lifestyle factors and different foods. So obviously with my blood test, obviously the easiest way, it is quite hard in modern medicine these days to get blood tests. You almost have to beg your doctor for a full blood panel unless you have like a range of symptoms. So I just wanted to look for optimal health. So I went on to, it was called iScript. So I'm a practitioner there on iScript now, so I can refer clients to that. And I basically just paid for the script outright, right? So then went to the pathology clinic, they did the bloods, and they just sent me the results direct. So it cuts out the middleman, cuts out the doctor. Not to say that it's bad going to a doctor and can get your bloods, because of course you can get them for free. But I'm feeling like today, just over the past, 10, 15 years, it's just become a lot harder to just get any sort of blood work done, especially through, the Medicare system here in Australia. Yep. So it's something that we really want to, go through and address. So got my bloods back, and me and Liam are now going to go through them, but we're going to explain obviously why we're doing what we're doing, and what we're looking for as well. So take it away, Liam. What are we, looking for first and foremost in just my blood work, for example?
Well, actually, first and foremost, we should touch on, why did you get your bloods done in general? Did you have certain symptoms of anything? And let's say, were you getting sick very often? Because when it comes to blood work, and especially blood work interpretation of what we're actually looking for, symptoms are really key, right? Yes, there are going to be the people that are like, I just want to look under the hood and I want to see what's going on. But you actually had some general symptoms, and you hadn't had your bloods done for how long? Oh,
I think I got real basic bloods done a long time ago. Sorry, Pablo's here as well, of course.
Yeah, Pablo's here, and she always tries to
won't leave us alone, so she's just going to be up there with me. So pretty much it was more just sickness more than anything. Just was getting sick fairly frequently. Obviously, since I started implementing the sauna and everything else, it's obviously improved. But like we were talking about, I think actually a big part of it was having almost a dead tooth in the back there that I needed to get fixed up. So once that has been fixed up, it was probably 2 weeks after then I did the test as well. And I mean, touch wood, so far there's been no issues. But like I said, it's always good to look under the hood, look at information and those markers. So I was, especially interested to see those, because of the fact that I was generally getting more sick over the past few years than I ever really have.
Definitely. So that actually gives me a shit ton of information. So what I would look for in this blood work interpretation is, I'd look at your metabolic markers. I'd look at specifically certain enzymes in your liver, how that's actually operating, because that produces glutathione, which is the body's master antioxidant. So if you get sick, you need a shit ton of that stuff. I'd look at your thyroid markers, and then I'd also look at your white blood cell count, because that makes up your immune system. Just by knowing that information, that you're like, hey, I'm getting sick often, and I want to actually see what's going on under the hood, I now know what I need to look at. And a lot of people won't be able to get that information from general practitioners, unfortunately. So blood work interpretation honestly becomes an analysis. There's certain patterns, there's different reference ranges. Like, there'll be a generic reference range from the lab that you got your blood drawn from, but that's general data collected from people of the ages of 18 to 70. And every lab's going to have different reference ranges. So on your blood test, and specifically yours, I'll use this as a marker, right?
Hello, darling.
Pablo, giving us a hug. So your LDL cholesterol, people label it as the bad cholesterol, powerful antioxidant in the body, and people like to freak out about it. Now, in the blood test we've got here, it says it's at 3.6, and it's saying high. They've actually highlighted it red, right? In my optimal reference ranges from all the data I've got from the accumulation, optimal is between 2.2 to about 4.4. So you're actually in the optimal range.
Cool.
But you're given a blood test and it's highlighted with red, which people automatically go panic.
Of course.
And it says H, or some people it says L, which means low. So straight away you'll be like, I have high LDL cholesterol? Am I at risk for heart disease? Am I at risk for, cardiovascular issues, all this stuff? When that's not the case at all. A lot of the times it could be a genetic factor. Diet could come into play, but I know genetically, because I've had this test done multiple times, it unfortunately, and us being brothers, it runs in our family. On our mum's side, our grandpa or opa, he had very high cholesterol and he had a risk going on there. So there's a family history there.
So in terms of that, like in terms of a reference range that you would start to be concerned about, like in terms of cholesterol, like what would that be? What would the range above be where you'd be like, oh, if you're above this number, I'd really start taking some interventions?
So are we talking just LDL cholesterol or
I think
other cholesterols as well?
I think like
as need to look at total cholesterol and HDL cholesterol.
I was going to say, let's just say total cholesterol as a starting point.
Total cholesterol, I think, gets blown out of proportion. So total cholesterol, anything between, in my reference ranges, is about 4.2 to 6.4.
Okay,
cool. A lot of people would say that that's way too high, but cholesterol is actually a very powerful antioxidant in the body. The best analogy I've ever heard of it described, okay, let's say your body is a house and you've got a hole in the wall and then you need to put plaster to patch up that wall. That's what cholesterol does to your cells in your body. So there's some form of inflammation there. Let's say it's inflammation from weight training. Cholesterol can help patch that up with nutrient partitioning as well. So it's very important to know. Cholesterol is actually really, really powerful. It's really powerful in the brain as well. Like it's a master antioxidant in the body in itself. So we need cholesterol, and dietary cholesterol is very important. And fiber comes into play as well with how it regulates. But I honestly see like cholesterol is one marker that people blow out of proportion. Now there is one to worry about, and you'll see here under your cholesterol panel here. Triglycerides. Now, triglycerides is the amount of fat measured in the bloodstream.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's the one you need to watch out for. 1.0, perfect.
Yeah.
I like to see it anywhere under 1 or 1. I've got a diabetic client where I've seen it at 7.7.
Yeah, wow.
So it's like, hey, bro,
Yeah.
we got to sort this out.
Yeah,
Ketogenic diet, reverse this shit straight away. It's very common in diabetics and insulin resistant people. Triglycerides is the one to look out for. Cool. Anything over about 1.2 to 1.3, I'd be like, hey, let's start looking at cutting down some body fat. There's some excess fat in the bloodstream going on here. Could be dietary, we need to be looking at that. And that's pretty much from what I see on a lipid panel. So a lipid panel is the cholesterol and then also the triglycerides. And then you've got your HDL cholesterol and total cholesterol, which combines those two together. So overall in yours, nothing to worry about. But I just want to point that out because a lot of people, usually when they get a generic blood test, and all doctors usually measure cholesterol, a lot of people are like, hey, your cholesterol's high. Our mum, for example, got her bloods done and she is menopause as well. She got menopause early. And her cholesterol was through the roof. It was at 8. And usually, yes, it's a genetic condition, right? But there's a few things we can do, okay? We can take red yeast rice, which is really good for lipids. It's a natural blood thinner. It's like a natural statin to help with the cholesterol. But the other one could be, and this was the genetic condition I had with cholesterol, it could be a fat malabsorption issue. This is where things like TUDCA can come into play to add additional bile acids and bile salts. And we can't put them on the screen here, but I can show you on my laptop previous cholesterol tests I've got, and then I can show you printed out blood tests that I've got downstairs in my office, and you'll see the difference from when I supplemented with TUDCA and when I didn't before. And you see the cholesterol come right down. Diet didn't change at all. Still eating my 4 whole eggs a day.
Cool. All right. Let's move on to the next panel we're looking at.
Sweet.
What's
so
the next page?
The next panel you've got here is 25-hydroxy vitamin D. Now, it's very important that it is 25-hydroxy vitamin D. That's the one we should measure because a lot of people just measure vitamin D.
Right.
25-hydroxy vitamin D is the active form of vitamin D in the bloodstream. We have vitamin D receptors all over in our blood. So we want to see what the active form of vitamin D actually is. Now, yours is 96, and they've given a reference range of 50 to 250. Now, I will say a word of caution for people. I don't believe vitamin D toxicity exists. I think it's very, very rare that someone has too high vitamin D or excess in the bloodstream. We're seeing a lot of clinical trials of people healing autoimmune conditions from megadosing vitamin D.
Yeah. Right.
So vitamin D, I don't believe there's a toxicity. There's like one case where someone took like millions and millions of IUs and for example, the standard dose is like 1 to 5,000 I use a day, sometimes 10,000 in certain deficient people.
And this is not medical advice, just before anyone goes, I can
I'm-
mega dose vitamin D and do what I want.
Well,
Yeah. None of this is all just we're interpreting blood work, right?
We'll insert the meme. Oh, I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah,
but
I'm
just
not a
so people know, like they're not like, oh, just because I've had these tests done or these levels are mine, like that's what you need to aim for, or that's what you need to change, or the supplements that I've been recommended are the ones that will fix you as well. So I think that's just something to caveat. We probably should have put that at the start.
We'll put the disclaimer in the description and everything as well.
So aside from like with vitamin D, aside from supplementing it, like and sunlight, are there any other ways to get more out of it or absorb it better?
Yes. Whole eggs.
Cool.
In the yolks, it's very rich in vitamin D.
Good thing I've started having 3 eggs in my egg white omelette every day.
There you go.
Beautiful.
It's not really an egg white omelette if it's 3 whole eggs, is it?
Well, 3 whole eggs and then a couple of egg whites.
A couple of egg
to
whites,
get the protein in, you know.
But we're going into winter, and we're all rugged up. It's fucking cold today. Like, we're going to start to see these crucial, and especially the vitamin D and the immune system have a relationship with one in themselves. So your vitamin D needs to be optimal.
Yep.
Also, it does correlate to testosterone and energy and stuff. You just want your vitamin D optimal. Cool. It's as simple as that.
Easy.
Sweet. Moving on to the next marker. So this is going to be your metabolic markers. Now, we're not going to go through every single one in here because this podcast will go for like 2 hours.
Can you explain quickly what metabolic markers are?
Yeah, so metabolic markers are pretty much like you've heard of like your metabolism, nutrients and all that stuff. This is like your electrolyte balance, so like your potassium, your sodium, all that stuff. Cool. Your creatine kinase, which we'll touch on here because it's high, and I love this one, and you laugh because you know what we're going to talk about. So creatine kinase is one where people like freak out if it's high, but if you're an individual who weight trains and has lean muscle mass on your body, your CK levels are going to be high. Okay, it's calcium, phosphorus located pretty much in the muscle cells, and yes, in the blood. So you've got nothing really to worry about there. It's only an issue if you've got other kidney markers that are elevated, but you don't have that in here at all. People look at creatinine and EGFR. EGFR, I honestly think is a bit of a pointless marker. But the ones that I do want to touch on under the metabolic markers, because a lot of people will see these ones usually raised or elevated. They're going to be ALT, AST, GGT, and ALP. Now, they're all your liver enzymes. And then also, there is a S-uric acid one measuring stomach acid and in the blood, but we don't have to worry about that. There's another one called serum gastrin as well, but they didn't measure that in this blood test. So it says here, your AST is in range. I would actually say it's a bit high, but it's only one liver marker out of the 3. Now, the other one's GGT. It's an enzyme found in the liver and then also the gallbladder. And usually it correlates with the bilirubin production as well. So if you look at issues there, you'd be like, okay, maybe there's a gallbladder issue also synergistically with the liver. That's usually fine there, right? But a lot of people see these ones raised. Why is that? Well, if you've weight trained close to the blood test, then these enzymes raise because your body's actually inflamed from the weight training. Your liver enzymes raise straight away. So a lot of people think that their liver's messed up when in reality they just trained really hard the day before. So to get an accurate blood test, I always tell people have no supplements for 48 hours before you test because we don't want to pretty much mask what we're trying to find in the blood test by taking supplements. We want to know if there's actually something wrong that you have to be supplementing for. And the other one is with the liver. So we want to make sure that there's no inflammation in the body. Now, one marker for inflammation that is measured here is your high sensitivity CRP, which is your C-reactive protein. Now yours, you'll actually enjoy hearing this, is the lowest I've ever seen in someone. So you virtually had no inflammation in your body.
Quite interesting.
So for a lot of people that have chronic infections, chronic inflammation, stress, whatever, you had absolutely none of that. Yours was at 0.3. You want it under 1. Anytime under 1 is a little bit raised. And ignore the break. We're just grabbing Pablo before she runs down my stairs. The joys. The joys. Yeah. So it's low. Why would you in terms of that? Because obviously, I said, I've been feeling sick and stuff like that. So do you think a big, I guess, reason for that would be that, I've obviously got, my tooth fixed up and that's probably just fixed up a lot of potential issues through that? So you could have had a bacterial infection in the tooth, which I think your dentist mentioned. Yeah. So when I had a viral infection, guess what my CRP was?
No idea.
30,
Yeah, right.
which is like ridiculously elevated, like borderline, like you're at risk for like heart failure and everything.
Yeah,
and
right.
I borderline was at the time I had the Epstein-Barr virus. So yeah.
Interesting.
Now we can move on. Actually, we'll move on quickly to the white blood cell count, because that's something that we look at with the immune system.
Yeah, cool.
Now, there's two specific white blood cell count markers that I like to look at, and this is how I identify a lot of things if there's chronic infection or inflammation going on, or like a bacterial infection, or what I've seen is parasites, because they do work. And this is why interpretation is so important in blood work, because our white blood cell count is just one marker, but it makes up of 5 different white blood cells.
Yep.
They're neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, basophils, and eosinophils. Each individual marker plays a role. Now, the ones I like to look at in the neutrophils, think of neutrophils as your nutrient partitioning.
Yep.
So people that have nutrient absorption issue, usually their neutrophils are low. And you're like, why is that? Well, there's something that's actually feeding onto those white blood cells there.
Like a
Usually,
gut sort of...
Like, negative gram bacteria,
Yeah, right.
LPS, lipopolysaccharides, parasites, they're a big one. For you though, and I'll give my optimal reference ranges, your white blood cell count here is 5.9. So that means that your white blood cells are actually functioning well. They're not inflamed, they're not chronically elevated. Usually when they're chronically elevated, it means you're actually fighting off something. These are actually stable. Usually I like to see them between 5.5 to 7.5. Then we go into neutrophils. I like to see these about between 3.0 to 4.5 for optimal function. Yours are at 3.2. Lymphocytes, usually about 1.5 to 3. Yours are at 2.1. They're the main 3 I'll look at. The other 3 do need a bit of investigating if they're a little bit out, but yours are completely fine as well. They're the 3 main ones I like to look at. So in terms of immune function, it's like, okay, you were getting sick often, you had this tooth thing, but we've seen that, okay, your liver's functioning fine. One of the markers is a tiny bit high and elevated, but hey, the rest aren't. So it's not a gallbladder or an enzyme issue. Maybe you were just a little bit under-recovered from training. That's the only thing. You do train all the time. That's the only thing it probably could have been, unless you had something that you ate that aggravated your liver.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, what's the next one?
Next one?
Or next one?
Oh, next one was your testosterone. Okay.
Interesting.
So here's a real interesting one for you all. Okay, so
I've been on gear, guys, sorry.
I can
Absolutely claim that I definitely am not.
I can say through these you're not on gear for a 32-year-old male, and that weight trains and eats a clean diet. These are actually where I'd like to see them. I would give a few recommendations to boost it a bit more, but in terms of like issues, I don't think you have any.
Yeah, cool.
So his testosterone is 28.5. I personally like to see it above 30 just because, you want optimal test. But, we also look at SHBG at 44. That's about, and look, they've given a reference range of 17 to 56 on this blood test. And honestly, I think that that's actually too low. I've seen SHBGs go up into the 80s on ketogenic diets and stuff. And if you eat carbohydrates, it lowers your SHBG. To explain for people, SHB is your sex hormone binding globulin. So we've got his free testosterone here, which is 492, which is actually good. We want that maybe a little bit higher. We can always optimize and boost these with certain supplements and certain lifestyle changes. But at the same time, if his SHBG is low, it means his body is actually using and distributing that free testosterone. Whereas his SHBG is high, then unfortunately it binds up that free testosterone. So you could have high test and high free test and be like, this is awesome, but you could feel like dog shit because you have high SHBG and high estrogen. So too much test is being aromatized and converted into estrogen. That's why we use natural aromatase inhibitors, AI, for people. Even though that's a different term now these days. For someone who's looking to do that, I recommend supplementing with like Tonkat Ali, which is known as a herb to lower SHBG. The other one's Vitex, which is a really good one for people that have excess estrogen issues. But that comes into play with a lot of things like, unfortunately, microplastics, topicals. Like there was recently shown in a study that like lavender body wash was causing gyno in teenagers and all this stuff. Like, all this stuff that you don't want. So in terms of that.
So
awesome.
what would you improve in terms, if you were looking to get my test from where it is to up plus 30, what would you look to do? Like what's probably the simplest 2 or 3 interventions you could
Simplest
you could
2
give?
or 3 interventions, sleep more. I know you get up early and stuff, like, you know, a better quality sleep. The other one would be filter your water. I know you don't drink filtered
I
water.
do. I've been good actually
you
the
do?
past probably month.
Yep.
I've been pretty good.
Filtering your water are good because when it comes to boosting your test, you want no room for any estrogenics to get in your system. The other one would be, I actually would want to boost your vitamin D levels about to like the 125 route. You're sitting at 95 or 96 on here, I believe. So you want to boot that. I'd say supplement with vitamin D K2, about 5,000 IUs a day. We could boost it into the more 10,000 IUs coming into winter, definitely, because we're just not seeing the sun at all here in Melbourne, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. Eat grass-fed meat, like just all the bioavailable nutrients in there. You're already eating the eggs, which is good. We could increase some more supplements in there, like, you know, you could go from like 5 grams of creatine to 10 grams, add things like trimethylglycine, stuff like that. But other than that, yeah.
It was funny when you mentioned the sex binding globular
SHBG.
SHBG,
Yep.
we'll call it that, because I feel like for a long time I've now been married to like more of a low fat diet, and I find like probably, you know, I'd struggle to clear, you know, 50 grams most days unless I'm like, you know, having stuff on the weekend. So it's quite interesting you say that, because when I ran this through ChatGPT, of course, it did recommend some more probably like monounsaturated fats a bit more.
Gotcha.
Especially it was recommending tiny bit of a side tangent, but it's all relevant. Like it was recommending obviously more fish oil and omega-3s and that as well. So, and I know that's something I don't get probably enough of. So I'm assuming if I would boost the fats, just a touch, potentially like say another 20 grams a day or something, that could then help.
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
So there's two things here. It depends on what source the fat's coming from. The other thing is, I don't know if ChatGPT takes genetics into consideration.
Yeah.
Because genetically, and I know you haven't done your genetic test, but for people that don't know, I went so deep into this stuff. I did about, I think, $800 worth of genetic testing, sent it to a lab consulting company, had it read and everything. So I called it Life on Hard Mode. I've got SHBG++, which is a copy from my dad and my mum, which means I've got 2 positive variations of the gene. So I've got high SHBG and high estrogen on both. I'm like, great. No wonder I had gyno as a teenager. So I got Life on Hard Mode, which means that I need to keep my sleep, my diet, my lifestyle, everything in check to keep my test functioning as much as possible, because my body and genes give me every reason to be, the opposite.
That's interesting. Do you want to go into that really quickly? Because we don't want to say that if you haven't hit the genetic lottery, that's too bad.
Yep.
You're obviously still going to be able to make great progress in the gym. But I think that's a really good thing to realize with people. It's obviously genetic testing has become, a bit of a thing now. And it's for a lot of people, they're probably sitting there like, why is this person building muscle 5 times as quickly as I am? Or why do they seem to just eat what they want and still stay lean? And I'm counting every calorie and I feel like I'm really struggling to get there.
Well, there's no one answer.
Yeah.
Because even you just mentioning that, yes, the gene test could come into play, but it could be something completely different that I found in blood work. It could be negative gram-bacteria overgrowth. It could be, something else going on. So it's really hard to answer there. But for genetic testing, I recommend everyone just does it once. Like a blood test, you can get it done probably once every 3 to 6 months if you want to really see what's going on, especially if you're a client of mine and you're on a protocol. We actually need to see that the results are working.
Yeah, of course.
So for my guys, we get a test at week 1 and then we get a test at week 12 and we actually look at the difference. And for anyone that signs on board, because anyone who comes on board with me, they actually need to have their blood work for us to start.
For sure.
Because otherwise, we're just shooting blank. We need to know what we're actually fixing, all that stuff. And so what I've seen with people is, okay, the genetic test is only once. You pay $300-400, you do a saliva test, depending on where you actually get it from. Methylation's a big one for a lot of people. A lot of people talk about the MTHFR gene, if you have copies of that, which means your liver doesn't methylate certain B vitamins, so you've got to get a methyl form of B vitamins. But if you have it, right, it's not the end of the world. You can easily supplement and reverse it. For those of you that do have the gene, and you may have it if we have the same genetics, I have 3 copies of the gene. All you need to do is supplement once, and I say once, it's 60 days, it's just 1 packet of NeuroSAM-E, which is a really potent version of methylated B9 and B12, and usually your liver will start to methylate after that. It's the same as I mentioned with the fat malabsorption with Tudka. It's like you just supplement it with it once for like 60 days, take it like 500 milligrams once a day. This isn't medical advice, but then all of a sudden, because I was so deficient in bile and stomach acid, then all of a sudden it starts working again. It's the same as taking a probiotic. Your gut was lacking a certain bacteria. You introduce that bacteria and now it can regulate. You don't have to be on a probiotic for the rest of your life. You're just supplementing with the tools that your body didn't have to correct itself, and then it knows how to work itself after that once it's got the tools.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think like going back to like say someone gets a blood test now, right? Like say one of them, someone who's listening to this, one of my clients goes and gets one because they're they're just feeling like they're struggling to lose fat, they're feeling a bit fatigued, they just feel like something's not right?
Yeah.
They've been doing all the right things. What would you say, like just obviously looking at a basic blood panel, what are the sort of the let's say a couple of like danger areas or something you'd be like, okay, this is really what I'd want to look at if there were three main things that you see that are low, and then how would you fix them?
Well, it depends on what the symptoms are first and foremost for the blood tests. Like, if you've got a client coming to you saying, I've got like these mood issues or energy, motivation issues, I think I've got low tests, then it's like, okay, we look at that.
Yeah, let's start with that. Let's do that then. So if they've got like energy depletion, feel like they've got low tests, struggling to get out of bed, energy, all that stuff.
I would get the hormonal panel done, but it's actually really hard to get the hormonal panel done these days. If you're a male under the age of like 40 and you want to get your testosterone done by a GP, straight away the answer is, oh no, you don't need to get that checked.
Yeah.
Like you're too young. Or just they say like, okay, we can do it. And I had a nightmare story that I'll let you know is you can get obviously these things bulk billed, but some they charge you private. They write you like a separate script. So I wanted to get my test and all this checked and stuff when I was living in Brisbane. And so what the doctor did was they wrote up a script of all my electrolyte panel and metabolic markers, lipid panels, iron, all that stuff. And they wrote a separate one for the testosterone and estrogen and, follicle stimulating hormone.
Which
all
wasn't
that
covered.
Which wasn't covered.
Yeah.
So the nurse was really confused looking at these scripts because one had bulk billed on it, the other one said private. Now she had to call and ring up and ask like, how much is this going to cost to whoever, all that. And it was $481. And I pretty much walked out. I just said no. And I tried to explain to the nurse, I said, for everything here, I could go on my phone right now and order a script for $150 on iMedical. And she kind of didn't want to have a bar on me, but she's like, oh yeah, I know, blah, blah, blah. Like she didn't really want to hear it. She's just there to draw the blood.
Just there.
I'm like, fair enough. Yeah. But I was just like, I was so shocked at the price. I was like, this is someone just trying to figure out their hormones and their health. And it's going to cost almost $500 when the doctor can prescribe it for free, because it's actually happened before I've seen certain GPs and they're like, okay, yeah, let's get it tested and have a look. But then some doctors are like, oh no, because apparently their medical license, Medicare contact them if they, put too many hormones through. They'll be like, hey, why are you investigating this? Then their license actually gets sort of like questioned.
It's crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a crazy system.
Anyway,
right?
We'll go back to when someone's feeling rough.
Yep. So when someone's feeling rough, I'd look at that. I'd definitely look at their white blood cell count because I'd need to know if their immune system is under attack. So I think a lot of people have such low energy and their immune system is constantly fighting something off that they're unaware of. The other one would be their iron panel, because they need to know if they're actually absorbing iron or not. Some people are chronically deficient in iron and they're not absorbing it, which comes into a lot of things like for women, there's blood loss during their period. People go vegan for whatever reason, and then they're not absorbing any iron in their diet. They're tired, they're anemic. A lot of people have negative gram-bacteria overgrowth, which iron is like chocolate cake to pathogens, which means if there's negative gram-bacteria, it just eats up that iron. Eats up all the iron stores. So people, they unfortunately feel pretty much tired dog shit. So I'd find out the hormones, the white blood cell and immune function, and then the lipid panel.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're the three I'd measure. But blood work's not that simple. It's very complicated. I'd need to look at, I honestly, I've given you my referral with everything that's there. I want to look at the whole lot because you do need to actually understand patterns in blood work and be like, okay, this one marker here actually correlates to another one there, and a lot of people won't pick up on it.
Yeah.
There's certain patterns that go on there.
Well, people just think like, for example, oh, my iron's low, so I'll need to take an iron supplement. But it's like, if you're not absorbing it, it becomes a whole different story.
Which honestly, and I'm glad you brought that up, because supplementing with iron I've seen is absolutely the worst, because you just actually refeed that pathogen in your body and make it stronger. If you want to naturally uptake iron, you need to take things like desiccated spleen and lactoferrin.
Interesting. So I think going back to, I was going to show you on ChatGPT, basically what I did was I put, obviously sent that to Liam, but I put it through ChatGPT and I said, I want optimal performance. I don't want just general. And I said, can you use the ranges from for males from 30, 40 years ago, basically. Because I was especially now, when you take, the averages are much lower than they were, 30 years ago in terms of optimal health, because obviously the general public, they're just getting the averages, and they're giving you average ranges. The average ranges 30 years ago would be much, much higher. Yeah.
I've got it all up here on my laptop if you want to go through it.
Yeah,
because
sweet.
we'll relay it back to you guys, but it is interesting because I will say I was surprised. ChatGPT actually got quite a few things right. Now, will it replace a practitioner who knows what they're doing and, certain things like genetics and lifestyle and stuff? No, but this is actually for someone to enter their bloods into ChatGPT and get this information back, I'd actually agree with about 80% of it.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
So for example,
let's go through, maybe let's go through just the supplement stack or what they recommended, and then you can sit there and go, okay, this would be good, but then there's also foods we can sort of go through as well.
Yep. Sweet. Okay. So we'll start with the lipid panel and cholesterol that they've given you. I mentioned before that fiber and TADCA and those things correlate with one another. They can be really good. They've recommended here psyllium husk 5 to 10 grams a day. I'm not the biggest fan of psyllium husk. I think partially hydrolyzed guar gum is a way better fiber supplement and much gentler on the gut. The monosaturated fats, avocado oil, and macadamia nuts. I would obviously word of caution with that one, with the high amount of calories.
Yeah.
I'd actually probably not worry. I'd not really worry about those ones. I'd actually say the next one they've recommended here, the fish oil and the omega-3s. They specifically mention the EPA and DHA ratio, which I'm very surprised about. They don't mention omega-6s with the omega-3 and omega-6 ratio, but at the same time, it's actually good. But then they said limit saturated fat from dairy and red meat if LDL remains stubborn. I'd actually disagree with that.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. Then they've got your testosterone panel here. They mention that, okay, it's good, but not elite. And the optimal test would be 30 plus, and then the SHBG would be 30 to 40 to free up more free test, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
Now, exactly what they mentioned, and man, we didn't even script this when we were talking, but I'm reading it again now, and I'm like, oh shit, they actually got a lot of things that I mentioned. Your vitamin D, yours is 96. They said aim for 120 to 150 and supplement with 5,000 IUs of vitamin D with K2 and MK7. So I'm actually very surprised with that. Boron 3 to 6 milligrams per day. You only need 3 milligrams of boron. I don't think you need to supplement any more of that. They didn't mention Tonkat Ali for the lower end SHBG, so I think ChatGPT needs to catch up on that. They want via food for zinc and magnesium with ZMA. I like to supplement with them with certain different ones with magnesium glycinate and zinc sustain, but that's still a very good recommendation. Lower cortisol via stress management and better sleep. I did mention that
Standard,
to you.
Yeah.
Yep. And then get leaner, lower body fat will improve testosterone conversion ratios. I would disagree with that. Getting more metabolically healthy will improve testosterone, but getting lower body fat doesn't necessarily do that. Building more lean muscle mass will do that, but someone at 6% body fat does not have higher test than someone at 12% body fat.
Obviously,
it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I probably should have put in my weight and height and that sort of thing as well, because I'm sure if they would say you're 30 kilos overweight, for example, then that would probably be a lot more practical.
They got the creatine kinase right with yours being elevated. They're like, this is normal if you trained hard the day before. They didn't mention muscle mass, but they're like, support muscle repair with creatine, magnesium, and taurate to help muscle recovery. They did mention your inflammation marker, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, absolutely elite. Keep doing what you're doing here. I mentioned the exact same thing. That's the lowest I've seen it. So there's virtually no, inflammation in your body.
Yep.
Iron studies, ferritin 215, they're saying functionally high normal, could potentially lower for longevity and vascular reasons. I don't really understand the reason why they've done that, because ferritin does measure with, transferritin, saturation, other iron markers here, but they're saying like avoid iron fortified cereals. That's a new one for me. Donate blood every 3 to 6 months. I only recommend that really if you're under risk of hemochromatosis, which is iron overload in the blood, because we don't want that. And reduce red meat to 1 to 2 times a week. That can get fucked. Glucose control. We didn't touch on glucose and fasting glucose and insulin sensitivity, but I think we've harped on about that quite enough.
Yeah.
Your glucose control, as long as it's in ratio, it's just how you tolerate carbohydrates.
Yeah. So someone with, like, say, for example, someone who's like 40, 45% body fat, they're probably going to really struggle with that.
Fasting glucose.
And which is why like a ketogenic diet gets recommended generally to those people. The other one
would be...
Doesn't mean you can't lose body fat, of course, like we know, but that is why people will recommend it.
The other one is HbA1c. But also what you mentioned there with the ketogenic diet and someone's fasting glucose, this is where you'll actually see their triglycerides elevated, which is that fat in the blood. And that's really the dangerous one.
Yeah, right.
Sweet. They have mentioned here other markers are all good. They said your thyroid's not included, which is worth testing your TSH, FT3, FT4, which I agree with. Would have been good. And then they've given you your supplement stack daily here. So they've given you vitamin D K2 5,000 IUs to 100 micrograms. That is the perfect ratio. Shout out to ChatGPT. They absolutely nailed that. Fish oil, 2 to 3 grams combined. Again, you probably don't need that high, probably 1,000 milligrams. But at the same time, I would recommend cod liver oil because it's a more bioavailable form. Zinc, 15 to 30 milligrams, and magnesium, 200 and 400 milligrams, preferably at night. I'd argue against the zinc at night. I'd say take the zinc in the morning, give you a shit ton more energy throughout the day, even cognition as well, and for your testosterone. Magnesium at night definitely, or post-workout. And they didn't specify what magnesium form, but magnesium glycinate is the one I'd say there. Creatine monohydrate, 3 to 5 grams daily. Pretty self-explanatory on that one. Boron, 3 to 6 milligrams, 3 milligrams. That's fine. You can take it with or without food, but I'd recommend with food. And then again, the psyllium husk, it's actually quite a low dose as well, 5 to 10 grams. I'd recommend partially hydrolyzed guar gum for you.
I might just boost chia seeds as well.
That's fine.
and just more vegetables,
there was
stuff
actually,
like that. It's going to add more fiber as well.
There was a recent study I saw that Lane Norton debunked. And it showed that in terms of mortality and cardiovascular risk for people in elderly, if you just had 11 more grams of fiber a day, 11 grams, which is like nothing. Like a protein bar has like more than that. Like if you're eating the right one, like 11 grams of fiber is so easy to get in. It's like 2-3 slices of bread. Like really easy to get in. Then your mortality risk for cardiovascular disease was like lost by don't quote me, but it was like 3 to 5 years or something. Yeah,
I reckon that'll be a good podcast. Actually, we might do one on fiber. In general.
They said great follow up, Josh. Stacking supplements is powerful. Timing and absorption rules matter a lot here, and they didn't mention that specifically. They mentioned a few. Here's how to take your stack for maximum absorption, minimal GI issues, and optimal performance, which I found really interesting. They give you a why, a when, a how, and a note. So do you want to go through all these, or do we want to wrap this up because we've gone quite over time?
Have we? How long are we on? 40? Are we 45 minutes in?
Probably. Like it's probably our longest one we've done.
Yeah, I reckon let's just wrap it up real quick with them. Just a real quick rapid fire on maybe just which ones need to be taken with fats and then which ones without, basically, and what times a day. So it's like morning ones, which ones with fats, morning without.
But, So, well, I don't need to read off ChatGPT. I can tell you off mine, but I'll do a bit of both. Vitamin D3K2, fat-soluble vitamin, take it with fats. Fish oil, fat-soluble, take it with fats. Zinc, if you take it on an empty stomach, a lot of people can feel really nauseous. So you got to be cautious with that one. So definitely take it with food. Boron, it is absorbed better with food, but you can take it without. That's fine. Psyllium husk, not necessarily with food. You can just take it, mix it in water or drink it, whatever, especially if it's a powdered form. Some people like taking it at nighttime because that feels like it fills them up. So take that what you will. Creatine. Now, there are different times to take creatine. I wouldn't actually recommend taking creatine right before bed. Just because there is a cognition standpoint to it. I think, honestly, if you're someone who's short on time and doesn't like eating in the morning, creatine first thing in the morning can, really help. It's been shown to improve performance not only in the gym if you take it before, but yeah, mood enhancement as well. But otherwise, post-workout, it's really good for absorption as well. Magnesium, I'd take it post-workout to help calm your nervous system back down. Excuse me. And then also after dinner. So as you're starting to wind down before bed.
Yeah, sweet.
And that's the list, actually.
Beautiful. Just trying to think if there's anything else we need to cover.
There's one thing I will mention. Don't ever rely on magnesium in a blood test. Only 1% of your magnesium in your body is found in your blood. So getting it measured in your blood is pretty much pointless. The rest stores in your cells, your bones, your organs, everything.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right, beautiful. All right, I think that wraps it up for today, guys. So I hope you guys got heaps of useful information out of that. It was really good getting Liam to do, 90% of the grunt work in today's podcast. But again, if you guys, are, sitting there and thinking like, oh, do I need blood work? Do I need something? Obviously, go through our other episodes, go through all the stuff first. And if you find, I'm eating well, I'm training well, sleeping well, I'm doing all the right things, and just feeling like, something's not right, or you feel like, again, there's areas you can optimize, I strongly recommend, getting some blood tests and then obviously reaching out to Liam. He'll be able to go through it and obviously help you out and, take you guys to the next level. Obviously, my clients who are listening to this, you'll be able to get some access to Liam as well, which is fantastic. So feel free to send that stuff through.
Well, some of your clients already have.
Exactly right. Yeah, I've had a few already chatting and fixing up some stuff, which has
been really good.
Yeah, which has been fantastic.
I've had one of my other mates who's a fellow coach. He sent 2 people through the other day. We found some amazing stuff through their blood work, and in terms of like testosterone and stuff like that, it was great.
Yeah, perfect. And like I said, guys, like we know it's not the be all end all, but it is, like we said, really good to take a look under the hood, see what's happening, especially if you feel like there's reoccurring symptoms. And then, like I said, you'll be able to get a protocol, or you'll be able to understand why these things are happening, so we can nip them in the bud, and then you can live more at optimal health. And of course, that's the Extra Rep podcast. We're looking for that extra little bit to get you as healthy and as happy as possible.
And knowledge is power. That's what I tell people. Like, if you don't know that there's a problem because you don't want to look, then you could live for 20 years with a problem. It's like it just takes one look under the hood to find out what's actually going on in your body, and then you can fix it accordingly.
100%.
Do you do an inspection in your house and find if there's a leak or something's going wrong? What do? You fix it.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, how long people will leave things dormant for.
Yeah.
But that wraps it up, guys. We won't keep you any longer. That was a long one. But like I said, hope you got heaps of value out of that. And next week we will be going through fiber, which will be a really good one for you guys. But until then, we'll see you guys in the next podcast.
Thanks, guys.